Hey everybody, I'm back with another Superman movie review. Picking up where we left off from the last Superman movie, the first one starring Christopher Reeves. Now we're going right into the sequel, Superman 2. Before we get into it, please leave a like, comment, share this video with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it and it helps the channel out immensely. And before we get right into it, have to do what I have to do. All right. So, this movie is, we gotta change the directors here because I guess, from my research, Donner had some what's that, the spiel they always use in Hollywood when they got in like a beef, creative differences between Richard Lester and Donner. And so, of course, Donner was put out, then brought back in to do his own cut. So, as many people give the Snyder cut or those Snyder fans a whole lot of crap, the Snyder cut, greatly improved upon on the Justice League film by leaps and bounds, no pun intended. But the Donner cut, which I see, like whenever I see this movie, I watch the Donner cut probably more times than I do the regular cut. And parts of the Donner cut, I think, worked well in this, but I can also see why the other half is like really was not necessary to put in at all. But either way, it does not make this movie less than at all. Either one, it still makes this movie very good, because more often than not, there's plenty of movies I thought like the director's cut always seemed to be better. Pretty sure like the Godfather films, at least one of them or all of them, I can't remember, have like a particular cut themselves. The Blade Runner, I reviewed that earlier this year, which you can check out on the channel. I reviewed like the director's cut of that, which makes the movie immensely better. Although the regular one is still good as well, but the director's cut of that was really good. The director's cut of Daredevil movie was immensely better than the theatrical version. So, and like I said, the Snyder cut. So there's been occasions where the director's cut has always benefited a film more so than hindered it, in my opinion. But there's been occasions where, like this, either way still works. So returning again as Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeves playing Superman, Ned Beatty as Otis, only he had like very little screen time, like at least probably at most 10 minutes. Jackie Cooper as Perry White, Sarah Douglas as Ursa, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Jack O'Halloran as Non, Valerie Perrine as Eve Tessmacher, and Terrence Stamp as General Zod. Oh, and Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen. We got E.G. Marshall as the President of the United States. So this movie had a budget of $54 million. It's like $4 million more than the previous one, and it raked in $190 million in the box office. It's insane. And of course, I'm not going to be reviewing Superman 3 or 4, maybe in the future. But like I have my selected Superman films that I wanted to review this month, so I want to stick to those. At least the ones I consider good. Maybe in the future I will get around to doing like a review of Superman 3 and 4, because it's been many years since I've seen them, mostly because they're so terrible and I haven't been bothered to go back to it. But like I said, maybe in the future, maybe you guys like leave comments below stressing like, oh, I want to hear your thoughts on Superman 3 and 4, all this other stuff with Nuclear Man and Richard Pryor and all that other crap. So if enough of you requested it, I will put it on the list. Anyway, so this movie was made like at least fairly quickly after the first one was made. So when it was released in theaters, it was like at least a year or two later since the last one. At least a couple of years later. And the opening is still cool, but it didn't leave like the epicness of the first film's opening, where you just like beelining in space as the credits hitting you as the musical theme is swirling around. Here you get a very lackluster title cards hitting your face while they're just doing recaps of what happened in the first film. It's not bad, but like I said, it doesn't hold the same punch as the opening of the first one. But the musical theme helps it immensely. So we began in tandem where where we began the movie, Lois is in Paris because some terrorists who was holding a bomb and some hostages and negotiation, all the other stuff at the Eiffel Tower. Clark's coming into work and he's hearing this stuff from Perry, and so he sneaks off to change into the Superman costume. Now, like I said in my previous review of the first one, where I commented on how I always love the creativeness of Superman when he's changing into his clothes because he has super speed. He can pull it off more so than any other superhero ever. But him just, I guess because it's super speed, because it looks like he's just like phasing out of his clothes or something. But obviously, your brain immediately goes to, oh, is this his super speed? Obviously, but I don't know. It's just the same way how he just fell off the roof and all of a sudden his jacket's gone and just changes into his cape and stuff like that. And it's like, God, it's kind of lazy. But what I would have done is like he's passing by, a couple of buildings, and little by little you see him switching out of the costume. It kind of reminds me how, like in Batman the Animated Series, I can't remember which episode was it. I'm pretty sure it was like a Clock King episode. Now I'm talking about it, it's kind of rolling, my subconscious is like bringing it to the forefront. It was a Clock King episode, I think the first Clock King episode, where Batman, well, at least Bruce Wayne, was running up some flight of stairs, and he was looking out the window and silhouetted, and little by little you see him taking certain things off, and then after 3 flights you see him like go into his costume in silhouette. And I kind of wanted something like that, where it's like he's passing by these buildings running, and you see him little by little changing into his Superman suit. Like I said, I like when Superman, when he changes his outfit, it does it kind of creative ways, figure out creative ways how to like, I think it's cool. It's cool. I don't know why. It's just cool when he does it. I grew up where Superman changes, like the Fleischer thing, when he goes in his like the phone booth. We don't have phone booths anymore, I know. But like when I was a little kid, I always thought it was kind of cool when Superman goes into the phone booths and changes into his Superman costume. He turns off the little light and he just like do this little quick change, and out comes in his Superman costume. I just like that kind of thing. It's fun. It adds to the fun of it. So he flies off from America to France to go save Lois and their hostages. And of course, Lois, being the Spitfire she is, trying to sneak past the guard, who's a complete idiot, to try to get like the first story and put herself in danger in the process. Of course, Superman arrives just in time, saves her, and flies the elevator with the bomb on it into space. Ironically, passing by is the Phantom Zone window that Superman didn't notice as he's trying to toss that elevator as far away as from the planet as possible. When it blows up, the shockwave shatters the Phantom Zone glass, and the 3 Kryptonian villains escape. Now, as a kid, I always thought, like, man, that is super convenient where this thing can easily just shatter from the slightest wave or shock wave. But if you pay attention, it was mentioned, I forgot who said it, it was like the father or the mother of Clark mentioned about, like, you know, sort of like a nuclear explosion should not shatter this glass, keeping them in prison. So it's like, I would say it's convenient, but it's just so happened that at that moment in time when that Phantom Zone was going near the planet, right as Superman is tossing like a bomb into space, it's all hella just, you know, coincidental. And the 3, you know, people start flying towards the moon, kills some astronauts, and I love it when it's like, you know, they think the planet is called Houston because Houston, we have a problem. So it's like, Houston, let's go to this Houston. It's kind of funny. It's still funny to this day. And Terrence Depp is an amazing Zod. He has always been my ideal General Zod. And of course, a lot of people probably grew up with Michael Shannon as their General Zod. He's all right too, but it isn't the same impact. I don't know why. It just, Terrence Stamp has a different level of gravitas when he, you know, puts that General Zodness. I'm pretty sure to this day, when people see him at cons and everything like that, people is like, I think he still feeds into the whole General Zod and is like, kneel before Zod, and everybody just goes freaking nuts. He will be forever known to be General Zod, and that's how I'm introduced to Terrence Stamp. He's been in other stuff too, but like, you know, Haunted Mansion and there's been plenty of other stuff. He's like a great character actor. Oh, Yes Man, he was in Yes Man with Jim Carrey. So not like ideal examples, but you know, he's been in a hell of a lot of stuff I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen, and he's very good. But it's like my first introduction to Terrence Stamp was General Zod, and you know, that's just me. And people probably just look at Michael Shannon as their General Zod, who's a little bit younger. But it's just so, and I will get to it once I cover Man of Steel. The whole "I will find him" doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. It's all right, not terrible, but clearly they were trying to do their own kneel before Zod thing, and I don't know. It's just, in the comics, we see somebody depicting General Zod in something, you usually will say kneel before Zod. You know, I never seen, I'm reading like a General Zod comic book right now, a solo series. At no point he says like, "I will find him," or at least use that in some kind of sentence. I'm pretty sure to other people it might be like a cool moment. Oh, he said the thing. He said the thing. I'm pretty sure it'll be a cool moment for some people, but it just doesn't ring the same way for me personally. And I still appreciate it because, like I said, Michael Shannon is, you know, a great actor, and like, I don't hate his General Zod because we gotta update General Zod in some aspect. Uh, and if you play the first Injustice game, it's pretty cool with the DLC of General Zod. They got like an updated version for the Terrence Stamp version and another one later that was the Michael Shannon version. But they still kept the line kneel before Zod when he's doing his like throw move and he just lasering you to the ground to make you kneel. At no point they added in any I will find him, because at that time it was a dumb line. I'm sorry. It was kind of dumb, or at least at best okay or very mid. It is doesn't give that same thrill. Anyway, so now we're going back to Earth where we see Luthor and Otis in prison. And I like the fact that, you know, Luthor still want to be Luthor, and despite being in prison, he's not like everybody else. He gotta be above everybody else and make his own little ascot thing over, you know, his prison wardrobe. And so he had this, he mentioned to Otis about this little machine where it's picking up these certain radio frequencies that, you know, unlike other governments that try to find where Superman lives and fail to do so because he goes so supersonic they can't pick him up anymore, he was able to fine tune it to actually pick it up and know where Superman's home base is, which is the Arctic. I'm surprised he didn't, you know, pick it up to find it going to directly to Clark's house in Metropolis. So they come up with a scheme to Shawshank their way out of prison, where Luthor made some kind of gizmo in his cell to portray like a hologram of him and Otis playing chess during lights out, giving them time to try to make an escape, where Miss Tessmacher shows up in a weather balloon, or a hot air balloon I should say, to pick him up. I guess at some point they made up, because she totally screwed Luthor in the previous movie by letting Superman escape to, you know, save the day. But they leave Otis behind because he was too fat to get inside the hot air balloon. Don't know why he didn't put that in your equations about his weight to make sure that you can get him on board. But he's left behind, and they end up going to the Fortress of Solitude, where Luthor figures out Clark's knowledge about the three Kryptonian villains that he picked up on. And you'll think like it's the Forces of Solitude. Maybe it's, you know, I don't know. It just seems kind of idiotic, because it's, you know, I think like he didn't know any better here, where what I'm trying to say is I'm shocked that Superman didn't have any kind of security measures in his fortress to prevent any type of intrusions that's not him. But also, well, I guess he didn't figure that anybody would come out all the way into the middle of nowhere Arctic to get to his fortress. But still, add some extra precautions regardless. You don't think like there might be dog mushers, you know, roaming around at some point or something. Also, in Superman Returns, the next movie I'll be reviewing next week, they make the same mistake because Luthor just busted in his house again. It's like, okay, I can probably forgive you on this one because you didn't think this will happen. But after the Superman Returns, which is like a reinterpretation, because they kind of skipping the third and the fourth film because it was so trash, and it's like, you know, the first two actually matters, so this we're going to stick to in this retelling of this narrative. But if that is the case, that you know full well that Lex broke into your fortress before, so let's beef up security this time around. But once again, breaks in his place, looks up some information that he should not be understanding, and in order to use it against you. It's very idiotic or irresponsible at the most. Uh, so Clark and Lois are on assignment to Niagara Falls because there's been like a string of newlyweds being uh uh bamboozled out of their money, you know, which they were supposed to be starting their new lives with. So they pose as a couple in this suite in order to uh try to catch the culprit and, you know, bring them to justice, things like that. So they go to Niagara Falls, and, you know, Lois, all the in the like the first, you know, 15 possibly 20 minutes of Lois's appearance in the first act, she's very hung up on Superman. And, you know, and she's telling, like, because it's kind of funny because Clark is kind of is the typical for many superhero stuff, where, especially ones with secret identities, more so, where the love interest has a more infatuation with the superhero persona more so than the civilian persona, and the superheroes end up being jealous of himself. And you see that with Michael Keaton's and George Clooney and Val Kilmer and Christian Bale, Batman. At least most of the, you know, Batman live action characters, well, even in like the animated series, the various ones all get, you know, the love interests always have more infatuation with, you know, the Batman persona rather than the civilian Bruce Wayne. So Superman is no different here. This is way before, because it was a long time before DC finally decided to let Superman and Lois marry, because it's so crazy that they're the true power couple in all of comic book history, and they needed to be together. I mean, they're up there with like Reed and Sue Richards in terms of like iconic superhero couples that need to be married. They are married, and I want that with, like, in the mainline Spider-Man comics with Peter and Mary Jane. There's no other person that they need to belong with. It's just so idiotic. But anyway, she sounded like, "Oh, Clark, you don't need to be jealous. You know, not everybody can be Superman." And it's killing Clark inside because he wants to tell her, because he's actually falling in love with Lois, but he wanted to protect her from identity, because being Superman is always going to be a priority, because he always going to have to go out, save people, and he's kind of going to be in danger. And the thought of her, anybody finding out that he's with her, will put her in danger by extension, which is like a typical superhero kind of problem. So he's very keeping that secret close to the chest, but he wants to tell her, but he's conflicted. At one point in Niagara Falls, where she's trying to, you know, clean off his glasses for him, and then she took a brief notice that, you know, as he quickly trying to put back on his glasses, like, you know, you kind of look, and then some idiot kids playing on the railing of Niagara Falls. I don't know why the parents are very irresponsible on that part. Kid slips, and while Clark is going to get hot dogs for Lois, he quickly changes to Superman, goes, saves a kid, and flies right back off. And she then notices, like, hell, where the heck is Clark? And Clark comes right behind, out of, you know, from the hot dog stand, quickly changes back to his civilian clothes. And it's like, Superman was just here. Oh, he was? Golly. And it's like, you know, and you wasn't there once again, Clark. And then she starts putting two to two together. And of course, Clark is denying it up and down. But then she decides, okay, she jumps off the Niagara Falls. Clark, not wanting to change into Superman, finds other ways to try to save her by, underhanded ways, like using his heat vision to cut like a branch down so she can grab onto the log to prevent her from possibly drowning or going any further down the river. And he jumps in to save her as Clark. She was disappointed, but his cover is still safe. But at the suite, she feeling down on herself. But as Clark is trying to hand her a comb, he trips, falls into like the fireplace, but nothing's happening. Then he got to come clean. It's, the jig is up. So, but once again, totally impressed by Christopher Reeve's performance as Clark Kent and Superman. Is like the epitome of how to carry yourself as like a superhero between like the secret identity and the hero persona. And he just slight little subtle differences and tweaks that makes all the difference. And she admits like I'm in love with you and everything like that. And so they fly off to the Arctic, where they have a little meal together. Then Clark used one of the crystals to speak with the live recording of a hologram of his mom. And of course they went with the mom this time because Marlon Brando was crazy expensive, and they didn't want to shell out too much money for him for just like a short little appearance. But in the Donner cut, which is a scene that I think out of all the stuff that was added in the Donner cut, they could probably leave everything else out but keep that one because it's kind of pivotal. Here the mom stresses what Clark is requesting is like not for the faint of heart. He wants to give up his power so he can live a normal life, to be with Lois, because he wants to go the superhero life. He feels like he does all he can. There's no other threats. Like, no other threats, dude. There's always gonna be a problem. Something more often than not gonna be too big for ordinary people to deal with, like i.e. the whole terrorist thing. You clean it up really easily. That it could have been a whole slaughter fest if it wasn't for you. There's always gonna be a thing. Meteors could come down to the planet, or something that might be too big for any other possible heroes in this world to deal with that needs a Superman. Supergirl isn't a thing yet, so it's like, yeah, there's no retirement for you. I'm sorry, at least as yet, until you get to the kingdom come moment in time. But even then, you age slowly than your normal person. So you're gonna do this for like, let's say he's like 25 right now. You can easily do this for 50 years and still look like you're just reaching 45. So you can do this for a mighty long time. But anyway, and this is around the time when people is like concerned like how Superman and Lois have sex and everything like that. And it's like a age-old question. He's because clearly they in the current comics they have a son together with superpowers. Billy Clark has was very careful, but even then it's like during the climax there might have been an issue because she was pretty far. But there's other things where they kind of circumvent that issue, like in Smallville when he finally lost his virginity to Lana Lang. She gained superpowers, so that allowed her and him to engage in fornication. And it's kind of still I still remember that because it's so freaking hilarious, where when they was actually doing the deed, it actually felt like the whole town was shaking like it was like an earthquake or something. It was pretty funny. But in other cases like this, he was depowered. So she, is saddened, but she understands that he truly loves his girl, and he truly feels he loves him back. So he goes in this chamber that's imbued with red solar radiation. He, it drains his power. Him and Lois have sex. They go off to try to live a normal life. Then to go back to Zod and his crew. They discover they have some newfound power, flight, strength, heat vision, super breath, all that other stuff. And they go in this rural town where they're wreaking all kinds of havoc. The police, armies, they all try to stop them, but they are woefully not prepared to deal with this. And again, another awesome line from Zod: "I win. I always win." And they added that in Injustice in his in Zod's winning scene where he's goes to the crowd: "I win. I always win." It's like, I don't know, there's two best lines of Zod. Like, kneel before Zod: "I win. I always win." It is incredible. And I gotta address certain things. This movie has very BS powers for these Kryptonians. They're just making up on the spot. You know what I'm talking about? With Zod and his crew had these little fingers and he's like telekinesis kind of thing going on. I don't know what the heck, because that's not a Kryptonian power. And also you see them kind of like teleporting at the final act of the film, but I guess you would think it's super speed maybe, but it's BS teleporting. It's like you're making up stuff on the spot, and it's kind of like ridiculous. But anyway, I thought I'd address that because that's probably like one of those big problems that I have here, where it's like making up BS powers on the spot when the basic powers of a Kryptonian. It's the same way how in the previous film, the biggest gripe everybody has is like Superman turning back time by moving the Earth backwards, which is ludicrous on a scientific level. That's even too much for even comic book standards to explain away, and they never done it again in any iteration of Superman since. They just never want to address that idiocy. I'm pretty sure somebody in comics probably made like a joke about it, but never attempted that crap again. It'd be kind of funny if somebody ever even tried that in a comic, in a Superman comic, where they, remember the time when you turn the Earth around and move stuff backwards? Yeah, it was a stupid idea. Well, how we do that? But we use Barry's, Speed Force and do it that way. I could tap into Speed Force by running or flying really fast at the same speed he does, and briefly tapping into the Speed Force to turn back time or for a short bit, something like that. But it might cause an uproar, or if a writer does it well, like I just explained, because Speed Force helps a lot of Flashes go back in time or time travel in general, so Superman or Kryptonians can get can reach up to the speed as a Flash, because coupled with the solar radiation, their powers are darn infinite, and they can just be absurd to a certain extent. So it's possibility they can like say something like, "Oh, I can turn back time, but I gotta run," or no, I gotta fly at the same speed as Barry Allen, so I can breeze to the point of touching the Speed Force briefly, so I can go reverse time, and he just sees it, the Earth turning backwards or something like that. It's just like an homage to the ridiculousness, but only this time played a lot differently, and then makes like a little bit of sense this time around. I don't know, it's a thought. Anyway, so well, Zod and his crew got all the military and the police force kneeling before him, and they look at the generals like, "Oh, so you're a general. Who do you answer to?" "I answer to the president of the United States." "Well, he will answer to me." And so they end up going to Washington D.C. Pop the top open of the White House and have the president subjugate he's like the world to them. He's the president said like he's spoken to other leaders of the other countries, and they all in agreement to like, because they don't know where Superman is, and so they said like there's one man that won't kneel before you. I was like, and who's this fool? His name is Superman. Then I will kill this Superman. I was like, where is the Superman? I wish I knew. And this is poor timing on Clark's part. So as they go in a diner, and after some idiot trucker tried to harass Lois and Clark trying to defend him, which is it was the first time where we actually see something like, as a kid, it's the first time I actually see Superman vulnerable without the whole kryptonite or magic angle. He's like a normal person now, and he never had to learn how to mix up in an actual fist fight. He's always been reliant on his invulnerability to bail him out on certain situations. And you saw in the first movie, as he's like, doing his debut after he saves Lois from the helicopter crash, and he's go out to save everybody and stop all these robberies. He casually doing it because there's nobody that can actually take him. So he never had to actually learn how to throw like a realistic punch. He's always been like the big fish. So now he got all these other people with the similar powers, but arguably knows how to fight, that he got to deal with. But even before then, he's a normal person now. He's not Batman. He's not even like a basic boxer. He's getting beat up to a bully pulp. And then you see on the news where Zod is challenging Superman to a battle. So Clark, and by the way, Clark ends up having to walk back to the fortress in the snowy tundra, and it's like, wait a minute, how did y'all expect to get out of the Arctic? You flew there. You didn't take no kind of ride or anything like that. That's another kind of plot hole here. Not a big one, but something that you can't help but think about. It's like, you flew there easily, but now that you depower, you didn't think about, okay, how is you gonna make it back to civilization, back to Metropolis to live out your life? Somehow they make it to this diner, which I don't know, is the Arctic, maybe you can argue maybe it's Alaska or something. I don't know, sure. But it's just like, how you go back and forth, let's say bare minimum 2 hours between that, from the diner to the fortress. That's still an obscenely long time. I'm being very generous with that timeline. It doesn't make any sense. But he ends up walking in his tundra. You think like, Lois would have tried to help him get a ride or something to make it back to the fortress. He makes it back there. He feels ashamed that he was, feeling selfish. And like, you might make the argument like, no, you wanted a life for yourself, which many superheroes feel like, I helped so many people. Like, I've done, so much. I want something for myself for once. It's like, every once in a while, some people are allowed to feel a little selfish every once in a while. Even somebody like Superman, he wants a normal life. He doesn't want to do this forever. Even he doesn't want to do this forever. Physiologically he could, but not forever. Eventually he will die by natural causes. Maybe not like heart attack or anything like that, but if it's not by combat with like Darkseid or something like that, he will eventually grow old. It'll take an extremely long time, but eventually he will get there, and eventually he will die. So of course he cannot do this forever. So I don't blame him for wanting to spend like a normal life with Lois. So he apologizes to this empty fortress. He sees this glowing crystal that's still there somehow after everything else is in shambles. So this is where the cut comes in, where I rather they would have kept it in the theatrical, where Donner, because you can tell between certain scenes what was shot by Donner and what was shot by Lester. Was it Lester? His name was Lester, right? Yeah, Richard Lester. Yeah, two different Richards. It's kind of funny. And so Donner's part had Brando for a short bit. God knows how much money it cost. It wasn't too long of a scene, but still probably wasn't cheap. That's probably where that $4 million probably went. Is where a moment like this was like, you know, very cool, where you see the father's hologram kind of manifesting, where the little bit that of Jor-El's essence that he gave into this fortress along with his wife still holds like a bit of his essence, which also includes his power that he would have had under this yellow sun. So as a sacrifice for the father to his son, it's like the son becomes the father, father the son kind of situation. It's like every parent would, any good parent would gladly sacrifice their own essence for their kid, so their kid can go beyond them, take it to the next level. So when they have that kid, their kid will go even further, that kind of thing. So his father will gladly gave up whatever essence he had in this fortress. So he can't talk with his father no more in this, you know, retroactively in Superman Returns, you still see like the hologram of Jor-El. But I'm just saying, in this particular scene, in this moment, he gave up his own essence to give Superman back his power. And it's sad. It saddens Clark, where it's like he knows he won't be able to talk with his father anymore, and it's important because he still wanted that connection with his parents. And this is the closest he's ever going to get. But his father's sacrificing this part of himself, like, you know, he won't be able to see him ever again, but he will carry his father with him for all time now. So he goes back to Metropolis as after Luthor meets up with the trio, the Kryptonian trio, and he mentions about, like, you know, the son of your jailer is the Superman. He's one and the same. So I can deliver you to him. So they go to Metropolis, goes to the Daily Planet, knowing that this is like his hub that he saves more often than anywhere else. So you get this awesome line where Christopher Reeve shows up, Clark shows up outside the window. General, care to step outside? And of course, in the CW Supergirl, you see Kara do the exact same thing to a villain. I forget which one. Probably like an evil version of herself. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was an evil version of herself. You know, Crisis on Earth X kind of thing, with a Nazi version of twisted variations of certain characters. So a fight ensues on the streets of Metropolis. I'm shocked that Clark didn't like think about taking this in a less public area, but it was an awesome fight scene. Probably one of the best fight scenes in superhero movie history, where Clark is taking on 3 Kryptonians by himself. But I think it kind of balances out, even though they're probably experts in coordination and tactics and fighting. They're not used to having abilities, where Clark has spent an entire life with his powers and maturing them and fine-tuning them. So it's kind of like, you know, he lacks in like fighting tactics, he's an expert in his abilities and knows how to utilize them better. You kind of see this play out even in Man of Steel, where it kind of bounces out the same way, where the villains are not used to their newfound powers yet, while Clark has, has been using them for, 20 plus years. So the fights on the streets are epic, but now they, come to realize, oh, he cares for these people, so we're gonna endanger the bystanders. So Superman spends time saving everybody, everybody's standing by watching this thing like it's a freaking UFC fight, rather than getting the heck out of there. But they're gawking like idiots. But it's still awesome to see, Christopher Reeve saving everybody is just fun. But then Clark seemingly runs off, but Lex points out that he can still help, and they take Lois as a hostage. But it's an awesome display between Lex and Zod, where Lex just says whatever he wants to them because he still technically have a leverage. And the line from Terrence Stamp is amazing. Like, why would you say this to me? I will kill you. And it's something that I always want to say to somebody when they just want to just being very disparaging and just cold and disgusting to me with that vitriol. And I just say something like, why would you say this to me? Well, I will kill you for it. It's like, it's very cool. I really like it. So they fly off to the fortress where Superman lays a trap, and another kind of what is still to this day, it makes no freaking sense. Non tries to attack Superman. He takes off this filament thing off his chest, and it's like giant plastic wrap that traps Non briefly, and it's like, what is that? What is that? It didn't even permanently encase him or anything like that. Because I would have respected more if he's stuck there and he can't break out himself and the others have to break him out for him. That would probably at least, something to hang your hat on. But it just temporarily, it was like a minute. It's like, okay. But then, as they're doing this teleporting thing all over the freaking place, which another thing makes no lick of sense. They threaten Lois. So, and while it's kind of like a stalemate, but only they're willing to kill, while Superman isn't willing to kill Zod. So, at least in that moment. So, he's was a cool tactic by Clark, where he's, he's whispering to Luthor. It's like you see that chamber over there? I need you to trick them into going in there because it will like depower them. Can you do me like a solid on that one? And then of course, knowing Luthor, he will backstab, and it's like he's trying to trick you to go in there, and so it will depower you. And so they in turn like get him to go in there to depower them. But lo and behold, before they arrive, he switched the mechanics of the machine. So now on the outside, everything is solar radiated, while the inside he will be protected. So now all the other Kryptonians are depowered while he still have his powers. And of course, it's also one where he's seemingly kneeling before him. And of course, he breaks Zod's hand. And I know people give Man of Steel crap for having Superman kill Zod. I will get into that moment when I cover it. But, many people point out this is not technically the first time Superman, when he's not evil or anything like that, just like baseline Superman, have to wrestle with the idea that he didn't really wrestle with the idea. He did technically kill somebody. He killed Zod in this. So it kind of, I guess, doesn't lose any consistency, where in Man of Steel he ended up killing Zod there. So it's like, and yes, when I saw Man of Steel and saw Superman in that kills Zod, I was like conflicted on that, and it's like, wow, I do not want I don't like the idea of Superman killing anybody because it's not him. But looking back on this and other interpretations in comics where it's like this, it's rare, but it does happen where Superman had to kill somebody, not willing. It's not like mind control or, you know, dark influence or, you know, alternate Superman that's evil or nothing like that. Just baseline Superman who having to make that hard decision and live with it. It's rare, but it does happen, so it does track. And of course, because he's an idiot, tries to fly over the crevice to attack, but he doesn't have his power, so he falls in the crevice. Lois punches Ursa, and she falls in the crevice. So all those Kryptonians are dead. And of course, Superman, knowing Lex couldn't hesitate to backstab him because he's just a petty bitch, knew he was gonna rat on him. But I don't know. You know, there is a conceivable way that Lex would not backstab him because he knows that as soon as Superman is dead or not in the picture anymore, they will have little use for him. So they probably wouldn't hesitate to kill him just for whatever reason. So it's like, I don't know. Unless Clark had like a device at handy to switch things backward in case it didn't go that way. But like I said, it's very lucky. So Superman and Lois fly off, leaving Lex stranded. They fly back to Metropolis, and another idiotic moment where Superman kisses Lois to make her forget he and Clark are one and the same. But once again, that is just, I don't know, maybe it's like some kind of thing. You can make the argument maybe it's some kind of thing on his list, but they didn't really explain it. So all in all, you just think, oh, that's just an extra power of his. He can just make people forget, you know, by just kissing them. And it's like, once again, they done away with that because it was so dumb. Like, it would have made a little bit of sense if it was some kind of like plastic, you know, fake, you know, lip, little plastic things that he puts on his lips, so that way it has some kind of, you know, chemical things to erase, you know, a particular length of time of memory or something. I don't know. But because she was struggling with the idea, is like, I can't sit there and pretend is too tough. I gotta pretend like you're you, and it was like a struggle that, because like I can't pretend like you're not this amazing person. I can't tell nobody. It's like, you're not supposed to tell everybody, but it's just like a secret that she has to learn to keep to herself. And looking back, after so many years of comics and so long of these two having like an established marriage and family and stuff like that, even before they had a kid, they had like a good time where they were like a solid couple, and she held that secret pretty fine. So it just seems, looking back, it's kind of like, I don't know. You can do it. You're making a drama where it doesn't really need to be, but it was drama of the time. So the movie ends, you know, a little solemn, but still a happy note, where Clark right now can't really be with the person that he truly loves in full. But knowing that she's safe and the day is saved and the bad guys are stopped. So that's the end of Superman 2. Still one of the greatest, you know, films of history. So in the previous movie, it's like I mentioned about, like, it should, you know, movies like this belong in a particular archive, the Smithsonian. That's what I was thinking of. I was trying to think of, like, these two movies I'm pretty sure are in the Smithsonian. it's in terms of like high tier film history, like The Godfather and The Dark Knight, and Star Wars, at least the original three, in terms of movie history. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit as I'll be covering another Superman comic. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.